In today's show, I'm going to do a little product review of my very favorite monopod ever. And I'm going to talk to you about whether or not you should be using one. Hey everyone, welcome into Magnolia Photography. I'm Jeff House and I'm a wildlife photographer in Charleston, South Carolina. So as I said at the very opening of the show, I want to do a little bit of a product review today on my very favorite monopod. Now, I don't know what your opinion is or what your view is when it comes to using a monopod or a tripod even when you're out photographing wildlife, or perhaps you even like to hand hold your camera. And that's how I first started when I got into wildlife too. I used to hand hold everything, and then I went to a tripod, and then I eventually settled on a monopod. And for me, what I found was that hand holding was not the most comfortable thing in the world. You had to carry around, a camera, and unless you set it down somewhere, you really couldn't stretch out and relax. And if you're out there, 4, 5, 6 hours doing wildlife photography, carrying that camera around, holding it in one hand as you're going around, it just gets tiresome. At least that's what I found, to be the case. So I don't know where you stand or what your perspective is on that, but I didn't particularly care for it. So then I looked at some tripods and I thought, oh, this will be a great idea, right? This will allow me to stabilize my camera, allow me to do some different things with my shutter speeds, especially in wildlife photography, right? Because we know that we're oftentimes out there in lighting conditions where we don't have a lot of light. We might be early morning or early evening when the sun angles are much lower and the lighting is a little bit darker, and we have to use some of those slower shutter speeds. And having that supporting device can obviously be very handy. But the tripod, for me, I found this to be a method or a solution that was very cumbersome. Lugging around a tripod, having to set it down, open up the legs, get it set, I just didn't like it. Hey, it's a great solution if you also enjoy doing wildlife videography in conjunction with your photography, but for an everyday type of thing where you're going out and having to carry the tripod, again, not the most convenient solution for me. I really didn't like that. So I started experimenting with monopods. And at first, I was just using a video head on top of my monopod, right? So yeah, a video head it works for wildlife photography, although I wouldn't call it the perfect way to go. And again, I was using that on the monopod, and the monopod I had at the time was a model by Suri. I believe that's how you pronounce it, or Suri. But I was using kind of a lower level model, and it just didn't feel all that stable, but I was using it for a while. It was kind of fitting the bill for a little bit, but I just didn't have much faith or trust in the model because it really wasn't rated for the type of weight that you're putting on it when you're doing wildlife photography. So I switched and I went to this upgraded model, and I have it right here. This is the Suri P424FS model. Now, they also make this in an FL model, and the only difference is that the FL model allows you to go higher, get taller with your monopod. So if you're extremely tall, if you're in that 6'4", 6'5" range, you might want to look at something like that. I'm 5'8", and so the FS model worked just perfect for me as far as the height. Now, what I have always gravitated towards in tripods and monopods are these lock systems, right? You unlock it and you can adjust the height of your pole. They're very quick and very convenient, but using this model with these snap locks has really killed my belief of using a product like this. I do think that Suri here makes a great product. They make excellent monopods. They make good tripods. I do think they make nice products. But what happened to me with this particular model is these flip locks have a little screw here on the back, right, that you can tighten up or loosen up with an Allen wrench. And so the only complaint I would have is I feel like maybe they cheaped out a little bit on the screws that they used for tightening this down. Because what happened to me was this top section here, this top flip lock, the screw stripped out. And nothing in particular really happened where you can say, oh, geez, the Allen wrench slipped out and shaved off some of the corner or something and it stripped the screw. Just under normal tightening, and I don't tighten this thing all the time. I've maybe tightened it once or twice since I've gotten it. And so just after a couple of times, that screw head just is spinning out. So I think they cheapened out a little bit on some of the hardware they used in these locks. But what that did, that caused a big problem for me because I lost the ability to extend this tripod up at, this monopod up at really the thickest part, the thickest part of the pole. Because of the screw being stripped out, I couldn't get it tight enough so that when I put weight on the top, it just kept doing, this. It kept wanting to collapse on me. So it essentially became ineffective, and I had to keep it all the way down, touching the middle one, which means I only could extend the lower half and the middle half, and I didn't have any of the functionality here of this upper section. So that became a real issue for me. And I said, time to do something different because it worked, right? It worked. But the problem was that the camera was sitting lower. And if you're out photographing a bird and they're sitting on a perch or up in a tree and you do anything where your camera angle is raised at all, it becomes pretty darn uncomfortable because you're stuck in a situation where you're hunched over, you're bent over, and you're just staring through that viewfinder on your camera, right? Waiting to capture that action. Super uncomfortable, man. My back just started screaming and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I need something for those specific situations where the pole is not going to collapse and I will be able to have the camera a little bit higher so I can stand up a little straighter and still look through the viewfinder to monitor my subject. So anyway, I got rid of this a couple months ago because of those problems. Now, you will notice too that this particular model comes with the video stand built into it. Now, I know many wildlife photographers don't use this, right? They don't like the video stand. They just want to use the rubber foot that comes with the monopod. And I get that, but many photographers also don't use a head on top of their monopod, or they use a type of head that doesn't offer a lot of flexibility. So they don't want the video stand. They want the rubber foot so that they can move the monopod in any direction. Now, my setup is a little bit different. So I like the video stand because I do enjoy capturing still images. And one of the big things that I'm really trying to bring into my work is wildlife videography. So having this video stand gives me a little bit of extra support if I want to switch from taking pictures to taking video. So that is something that's really beneficial for me. So that is why I always like having a stand. Now, you can buy monopods that come with this stand, or you can buy the stand separately. And I bought the stand separately when I got my new monopod a couple of months ago. So let me introduce you to my new monopod. This thing is an absolute tank. Now you're going to see on the bottom, I don't have the rubber foot in there, but there is a screw. It comes with a big rubber foot on the bottom. Again, I don't like using that. I like using the stand. So I got rid of the foot and I bought a stand because this one didn't come with a stand. I had to buy the stand separately, but it's not very expensive. I bought a Benrose stand. It was like $36, $37 to screw into the bottom of it. And I'm pretty sure all you need to do is buy a video stand that has a 3/16 inch screw, and anything will screw right into the bottom of that. But let's talk about this monopod first. This is the Leofoto MPQ 404C, and I will include the model number here in the show, guys, as we go, so that you can see that as well, and it'll be in the show notes as well. So this is a carbon fiber 4-section monopod with the twist locks. Now, I want to circle back to the locking systems, right? I just said to you that I always tend to gravitate towards the flip locks out of convenience. I don't know why I make such a big deal out of these twist locks. You know, I feel like, or I've always strayed away from them because, again, out of convenience, and I just felt like it took so much longer. But when you really think about it, it really doesn't. Maybe it takes an extra second to make the adjustment compared to flip locks, but I think that just goes to speak to where we are as a society today, right? We have no patience for anything. We want everything immediately. But seriously, it's just these twist locks are just like a quarter turn, and you can do it, and then you just tighten it up. And, you know, I got this one undone. You know, if you just tighten these things up, again, a quarter turn, and you can stretch it out, and then you can turn it, and it's locked completely. So it's very quick, and it's very reliable, and I've really come to like this. And I really like how they built the twist locks on this particular monopod. So normally it's just like a piece of plastic or metal here, but they put little rubber grips around the perimeter of their twist locks. And that just makes it a little bit easier to grab this and tighten it up and loosen it. And I really like that feature. I find that especially helpful when it's a little bit colder out and your hands just don't seem to be working as well. So it's just easy to grab that rubber and undo it and then tighten it up again. So this is something that I really, really like on this monopod. Now, again, this is a 4-section monopod. You can find monopods out there with more sections. Highly recommend you stay away from any of those monopods. Keep in mind, the more sections that you add to your tripod, to your monopod, yes, it's probably going to get a little bit taller for you, but it's also going to lose some stability. It's going to compromise the stability because as you get those longer sections, it tends to thin out the bottom pole a little bit more than you might like. The other thing that I would recommend to you when using a monopod or even a tripod, you can undo these legs and they go out, right? This leg is extended this long. Don't loosen up these sections and pull the leg to its full capacity. Don't use it at its full capacity, right? Because when you do that, that means the joint is in this section where you're locking. And what you're going to find is that there's more play with the sections right there. So what I like to do is I like to extend it down fully, and then I like to just slide it up a little bit, maybe 2/3 of the leg sticking out or 3/4 of the leg sticking out, and then I tighten it up. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the next section. Bring it down, and then I'm going to bring it in, and then I'm going to tighten it up. Okay, so that's what I like to do. And then when I'm out in the field, all I have to do is worry about the one section here. I can loosen this up and I can raise or lower it to whatever height is comfortable for the shooting situation that I'm in. So that's how I like to go about it. Now, I mentioned to you that, turning this the wrong way. I mentioned to you that I purchased a stand for the bottom of this, right? I purchased the Benro, and I want to make sure that I get the model number right here for you guys. The Benro 3-leg locking base. This is a fantastic little stand. It does the trick. Just going to set this down. But this is just, again, this little stand. It's got a little lock nut here that I got it tightened too much. Okay, there we go. So this little lock nut will loosen up. And it's just got some rubber feet here. Just screws onto the bottom, and all I want to do is get this nice and snug on the bottom of my monopod. So I can just simply screw this in. And this is a great way for me, anyway, to have a nice solid base. So if I want to do still photographs, I can do that. If I want to do video, I have that extra support. And if I get tired, you know, I can I can just set this down here and, not worry about it too much. Now, I wouldn't put my camera on here and be out in the field and just let it go, right? When you have a camera on here, it tends to get a little bit top heavy, right? And it's very easy for it to fall. And usually when you're out in the field, you're not setting it on perfect level ground. You have other elements like wind going on. So don't set this down and let it go and think that your equipment is not going to crash to the ground. But you can set it down and you can hold it with one hand very easily. You've got this little strap. Sometimes I'll just put my finger in there and, I kind of just let my hand hang down, and the natural gravity and the natural weight of pulling down on this keeps it perfectly settled on the ground. So that is really what I like to do with my monopod. Again, I can't stress how great this thing. I think this thing is rated for like 52 or 55 pounds. And I'm telling you, you can open this up, all the sections, and you can push down on it, and this thing does not slide at all. Unlike the Surrey that I was showing you a little while ago, if I opened all those sections, it didn't take much for me to kind of hang on it, and that thing would close right away. So I got rid of those flip locks. They're convenient, but they're not that convenient. They're not that much faster. And having the extra stability and having full use of all your sections is far more important. So those are the stand and the monopod. The other thing that I want to see you about or talk to you about, and this is probably one of my favorite pieces of gear that I got into, was adding a gimbal head to my setup, right? And this particular model here, I want to get this set for you guys. This is the Movo GH800 carbon fiber gimbal head. So gimbal heads are just phenomenal for wildlife photography, but you do have to be careful about which ones you buy. And remember, you are usually putting a couple $1,000s at least of equipment on your monopod, your tripod, whatever you decide to use. Don't skimp out on this. I'll tell you, I have bought some cheaper gimbal heads that are in the neighborhood of $100 to $125, and one of them broke while putting it on the monopod. And I said, nope, no thank you, right? That's just a stupid decision, but it got really high reviews. I thought I would give it a try. This one right here, this Movo one, is just under 200. So this monopod is just under 200. The stand was about 36, and this was 200. So somewhere around $450, you can have this entire setup. And I'm telling you, $450 to protect your camera and really have a great experience when you're out doing wildlife photography, I think is well worth it. So I'm going to just put this on. This can always be a little tricky finding the screw hole. But I'm just going to put this on so we can kind of take a look at what this thing does when we have it on here. Okay, so I'm just going to snug that up. Great. And then, so how I would use this is pretty much just like this. This is what it would look like, right? And what we have here is we have the spot where our base plate goes, which is attached to my wildlife camera, right? It's attached to the foot on my wildlife camera. And then this part is obviously the screw that will tighten that down. We also have a screw back here. This is really just for when you put the head on, it slides down and then you just tighten this up. So this is something that you tighten up when you put it together, when you get it, and then you never touch it again. So no need to worry about that. So just make sure that's just good and snug, and then this won't slide up and down this piece. These two screws are what really come in handy. This is what gives us the flexibility and the movement with our wildlife gimbal head. So if I unloosen this bottom screw, you can see it already wants to swing, right? This thing moves very fluidly, and that is a big advantage when you're out doing wildlife photography. You don't want to buy one of these where you loosen it up and it's kind of maybe sticking a little bit, or it's just kind of giving you a herky-jerky type of movement. So this is very fluid. This thing just spins once you loosen up that screw. And these screws work very well, by the way. I've used some gimbal heads in the past where the tightening and loosening screw here is not very good. It's made very cheaply, and you really don't have any confidence that this thing, as you're carrying it, isn't going to loosen up and your camera's going to be hanging over your shoulder and this thing's just going to start swinging. Not a good feeling. So it's well worth it to spend an extra $50, an extra $75, and get a product that actually works as it should. Okay, so you tighten that up. And then we have this top screw. And when I do this, this is going to allow this now to move this way, right? So now, again, when we loosen this screw, we get the panning motion. And when we loosen the top screw, we get the ability to bring our camera up or down. So it allows us to move our camera in any angle that we want, and it supports the camera beautifully. So let's take a quick look at installing the camera on this quickly. I'm just going to bring this down a little bit here in height. Okay. And I'm going to tighten this up so that we're not moving anything around. Okay, so I've got my camera here, and again, here is the plate that goes into the gimbal head, and I just screw that on and leave it on, and then we'll just flip that around to the bottom, pop that in there, and tighten up the screw. Now, I said to you in the beginning of the show, you see photographers with their camera hanging over their backs, right? Well, this is the part that you want to make sure is locked down and locked down good. And so what I'll do is I'll tighten it up that way, and then I turn it and I give it with my other hand a couple other twists just to make sure that we are good and tight here. And then what I'll do is I'll just hold this little tightening knob, and I try to move the camera in the base, and that thing is locked down good and tight. So I feel comfortable now to put this camera over my shoulder and walk around with it, not worrying that, hey, this thing isn't seated well or something loosened up and it's going to fall out. And every once in a while when I'm out in the field, I will double check this screw. I'm a little bit anal about it, but I'd rather do that than have $10,000 worth of equipment fall off this gimbal head. So I just tighten it down a little bit more periodically out in the field. So now we have our camera on here, right? And the whole theory of the gimbal head is that when we loosen it, the camera should pretty much sit there without doing this, right? That was the problem with having this on a video head. If the weight just isn't right, or any other head for that matter, I see people put these on ball heads and stuff like that, but you can't loosen up the ball head or a video head and feel comfortable walking away from your equipment, because I guarantee you it's going to fall one way or the other because of the weight. With the gimbal head, you can see, as long as you've got it pretty balanced, and you can see I have it pretty well balanced, and it's not that hard. And as you use it, you'll obviously get a little bit more used to that. But the camera sits in a perfect position. And now, again, I can use this in any direction that I want very easily and very quickly. So this allows me, I'll have my left hand up here so I can work the zooming part of the lens. And then obviously I'm using my right hand here to focus and capture the images. But this has been just an amazing, amazing setup for me. And this has worked really, really well. Now, if you want to go more expensive with your gimbal head, you can. If you want to invest more, that's up to you, but there are some great gimbal heads. These things get pricey. Again, this one's just under $200. You can go up $600, $700, $800 if you want to get a big gimbal head. And as you go up in price, obviously the quality is going to go up too, right? You're going to have better parts. It's probably going to move a little bit smoother. Probably going to have maybe a few more safety features in there around the base plate, what have you. Right? But that's what you get when you spend more money. You need to decide what's worth it to you. I am extremely happy with this Movo gimbal head, and I would highly recommend it if you're getting into gimbal heads for the first time. Spend just that little extra money and get this gimbal head. It works fantastically. Trying to think, guys, what else I would like to share with you about this. Been using it for a couple months, as I mentioned earlier in the video. And the whole thing is working really well, right? You always got to give something a little bit of time, because something can work great for a few days. Something can work great for a week or two. And then it tends to start showing its shortcomings. these products mixed together are not showing any shortcomings. I like this. The base on the monopod, pretty straightforward. There's nothing too major about that. It does the job that it's meant to do. Again, that's the Benro, and I'll provide all the model numbers for you again. This monopod, I can't say it enough how durable and reliable it is. And I think this is probably one of the best monopods you can buy out there on the market, just under $200. Get this Movo gimbal head, again, just under $200. Works well. It's very safe. There are a couple pins on here too that do provide a little extra safety. I did want to mention that. So on the base plate, there's a couple little pins that will help to keep it from sliding back and forth. But just wonderful, And you can lock these up and now you have a very stable base. Nothing's going to move. So everything locks down nice and tight. So guys, there you have it. This is a pretty quick video. But I know we're just after the Christmas holiday. So for anyone who celebrates the Christmas holiday, I hope you had a wonderful one. If you have, maybe you got a gift card or maybe some money from the holiday and you're looking to buy something for wildlife photography, I highly recommend this. This is a great setup and it's not that bad. It really isn't to carry around when you're out shooting wildlife, and it's going to give you a lot of flexibility to do different things with your photography. So I can't stress enough. I really recommend that everyone jump into a monopod setup with these gimbal heads. It's just really fantastic. Hey guys, what did you think about this video? Did you find it helpful? Do you have any experience with the products that I was talking today? And if you did, please share in the comments your experience with them. Would love to know that. But please consider subscribing to the channel as well. I would always appreciate that. And click on the bell icon to get notified when more videos come out. And if you'd like the video, of course, I would appreciate that just as much. All right, guys, that's it for today. Take care. Bye. And good luck with your wildlife photography.